His Excellency Dr. Thomas Prince, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany. To begin with, I request Mr. Hemanta Khare, President of Nepal Council of World Affairs, NCWA, to take a seat on the dais and hear the program. I would also like to request His Excellency Dr. Thomas Prince, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Nepal, to take a seat on the dais. Likewise, I also request Secretary General Mr. Ramesh Singh to take a seat on the dais. And similarly, I request our past presidents, distinguished guests, Executive Committee, and all members of NCWA to take their respective seats. Now, I would like to request Mr. Hemanta Khare, President of NCWA, for his welcome and introductory remarks on the occasion.
Namaskar, good afternoon. We are going to have an interaction program on German cooperation and future prospects. So in this occasion, let me heartily welcome His Excellency Dr. Thomas Prince, Ambassador of Federal Republic of Germany, former President, distinguished members, respected guests, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to His Excellency Dr. Thomas Prince, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany, and other distinguished guests who are present here to participate in the interaction on Nepal-German cooperation and future prospects. I feel honored to state that Nepal and Germany formally tied their diplomatic relations in 1958. From the beginning, Nepal and Germany have been cooperating with each other on the basis of friendship, mutual understanding, and cooperation. We have enjoyed warm and friendly relations based on mutual trust, respect, and goodwill. We share the same values of tolerance, solidarity, and democracy. We are also proud of our heritage and civilization. Since the establishment of our diplomatic relations, Nepal and Germany have continued to cooperate and collaborate in the field of capacity building of local institutions, the preservation of cultural sites, good government, and promotion of the greener economy. Germany is one of the major donors for Nepal's development efforts. Germany, it may be recalled, started its development cooperation in Nepal in 1961 by setting up the Technical Training Institute in Thapatali. Germany also constructed Middle Mersangi hydroelectric project. The latest round of Nepal-German negotiations on bilateral cooperation emphasized energy, transmission lines, infrastructure development, and up to 2022, Germany has supported nearly about 115 projects at the total cost of 2,932 million Nepali rupees. Germany, for your information, Nepal is a major export trading country, especially for the carpet and textile products. Besides carpets, export to Germany from Nepal also includes handicraft, silver jewelry, garments, leather, wooden and bamboo goods, tea and essential oils, herbal products, and aromatic plants. Nepal imports from Germany mainly industrial raw materials, chemicals, machinery equipment, and parts, electric and electronic goods. In 2021, Nepal has exported goods worth rupees $36.5 million to Germany. During the last 26 years, the exports of Nepal to Germany have decreased at an annual rate of 5.25%, whereas in 2021, Germany exported $61.2 million worth of goods to Nepal. During the last 26 years, exports of Germany to Nepal have increased at an annual rate of 3.5%. Nepal and Germany therefore need to work jointly to minimize the trade deficit. Germany has been one of the important sources of tourists for Nepal. Before COVID-19, The number of visitors totaled about 37,000 from the Germany. Joint missions at different levels are most visible features of ongoing dialogue with officials from the both sides exchange their views on the issue of common concern such as development cooperation, peace and stability, climate change, human rights and exploring the possibility of future cooperation. Needless to say, exchange of views at various levels has contributed to strengthening the close and cordial relations between Nepal and Germany. Nepal and Germany share a deep commitment to multilateralism, rule-based international order, and action for climate change. We appreciate the valuable economic cooperation extended by the German government in Nepal's various development fields. German Embassy in Kathmandu and the Embassy of Nepal in Bonn need to work jointly to promote further cooperation in such areas as investment, trade, business and tourism. Let's hope that the collective efforts from the government and the people, the relationship between Nepal and Germany will be further strengthened, reaching to a new heights in coming days. Before concluding, allow me once again to extend warm welcome to His Excellency and all of you. Thanks, you distinguished guests and other respected persons for sparing your valuable time to be present at the function today. Thank you.
Thank you, President Mr. Hemanta Khalil, for your welcome and introductory remarks on today's program and about NCW and current affairs. Now, before I request our Chief Guest to address the Council, I take this opportunity to present a brief introduction of His Excellency Dr. Thomas Prince. Of course, this is only a few points out of many of his responsibilities and achievements. His Excellency Dr. Thomas Prince has been in Nepal since November 2021 as an ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Nepal. Before coming to Nepal, he served as Director General of the German Institute of Taipei from 2018 to 2021 and Ambassador to Bangladesh from 2015 to 2018. He was Director of Foreign Trade Promotion, Federal Foreign Office at Berlin from 2012 to 15, and Deputy Director, Public Diplomacy of the German EU Presidency Division, Federal Foreign Office, Berlin from 2005 to 2007. Besides, His Excellency had been a part of EU election observation missions from 1998 to 2005. His Excellency graduated from University of Heidelberg. He has a PhD from South Asia Institute and also had attended the University of Gießen. With this brief note, may I request His Excellency Dr. Thomas Prince to address the Council to highlight on the topic and of course to widen the knowledge of the audience on various aspects of usual relationship between the two countries. Dr. Thomas Prince, over to you.
Thank you very much. President Karel, Vice President, distinguished guests, it's a great honor for me to be here today and to talk to such a distinguished audience. As President Karel has already mentioned, we have long-standing good and friendly diplomatic relations since 1958, and these relations have grown in the meanwhile. They are based on common values, on democracy, on shared respect for rules-based order, and I'm always happy to say that we two governments between Germany and Nepal, we do not have any problems. We share common values and we work together, and so neither side has anything to complain, and that is for an ambassador always a very nice situation. So friendly relations is what our relations are based on. I would like to talk a little bit about the development cooperation work Germany does here. We have started with that in the early 60s. And so right in the beginning we have been active in vocational training, we have been active in hydropower energy, and so we still are working in these fields. In the field of hydropower with Middelmarsang, the hydropower plant, we have ended our engagement in power production. Because meanwhile we see there's a lot of private investment coming up in hydropower, and development cooperation in that field is not needed anymore. Therefore we are shifting to other areas where we see that private investment is lacking. For instance, we are now financing the transmission line project Shilime-Trishuli and Leknat-Damauli. Then we are involved in the modernization of the load dispatch center. And you are all aware it's not enough to have the energy production, you have to distribute it, you have to bring it to the households, and all that has to be organized. In future, I see that we are more investing in an area where there's, in my opinion, an absolute need here in Nepal. That is the electricity consumption by household. The per capita electricity consumption in Nepal is much less than, for instance, in India or in Bangladesh or even in Bhutan. And when you use an induction cooker in a house here in Nepal and the neighbor does the same, then the electricity system breaks down because it's not made for high energy consumption. So we practically want to enable the households in Nepal to consume more energy, because this is also a contribution to a cleaner environment. At the moment we have cooking in Nepal which is 50% on wood, about 40% on gas, and the rest is cow dung and things like that, biogas, and only less than 1% of the cooking happens with electricity. So we want to increase that in future, and that means we have to invest in the distribution of energy. Another reason why we want to invest in distribution of energy is we see the future of traffic and transport being electric. I can imagine a Kathmandu where in 20 years there is no combustion car driving around anymore. And I've seen during my tenure in Shanghai in 2010, the streets were full of combustion two-wheelers. As I came there 8 years later, they were all gone. It was all electric. So in Shanghai you do not find a two-wheel cycle, motorcycle, scooter with combustion engine. It's all electric, and it can be done in a very short period of time, but it needs, you have to have the capacities to load the batteries of these vehicles. So I can imagine that in Kathmandu the city starts with public transport on an electric base, electric buses, and electric scooters, two-wheelers, and then finally also electric cars. And all that means that we have to bring this energy, which is now under construction or will be on the grid in a couple of years. We have to bring it to the cities, to the citizens of Nepal. So this is one area we are working on. The other one is health sector. We are supporting the government in its endeavor to bring health to its citizens. And in the last years after the Gorkha earthquake, we have mainly focused on rebuilding infrastructure. So we have rebuilt 3 district hospitals in Gorkha itself, and Rameshat, and another one which I do not see at the moment. It's a little bit north of Rameshat. And so this phase is now over, these hospitals are handed over. And when you ever have the chance to come to Ramechhap or to Gorka, have a look. It's beautiful buildings, very modern, and we're quite proud of that. We have still something under construction, which is in the far west, in Dadadura. There is already a hospital, but we built a modern maternity ward close to this hospital, and also facilities for doctors and nurses to stay there, because the area is so remote. You can have a nice hospital, but if you don't have doctors and nurses who want to live there, it won't work. Therefore, we are also building nice living facilities there. I was recently there and could convince myself of the progress of this work. And we support the government in bringing medicine to remote areas. We are working in the field of telemedicine. We are training midwives in Doolittle Hospital, and we try to end the congestion of the maternity hospital here in Kathmandu. You know, there is one hospital here in Kathmandu where we have 22,000 births per year, and all the people are coming to this hospital, and it's quite congested. And we try now under this hospital to establish new, let's say, outside wards to this hospital to end the congestion. So that is what we do in the health sector. And then a third one which I would like to mention is sustainable economic development, training and employment. The support aims to improve the framework conditions for local economic development, adapt agricultural practices to climate change, and thus strengthen income generation of marginalized households, integrating the value chain in sustainable and climate-resilient agricultural ecosystems. The support also strengthens the participation of socially disadvantaged groups and women in the value chains. One example for the work we do in that field is revenue administration support. It is a flagship support for the implementation of the senior sustainable development goal, strengthening domestic resource mobilization. That is our aim. So we help the tax collectors with modern software, and we help the taxpayers to make it as easy for them to pay tax. It's a quite successful project. Since we are working in that field, the income from that project has contributed to a 30% increase in taxes. So, and then we are strengthening the quality infrastructure for the pharmaceutical industry. We have the so-called Physikalisch-Technische Bundesanstalt in Braunschweig. It has a strange name. It's the organization in Germany which is responsible for measuring frameworks. So they are setting up norms and regulations, and that is what we try to do here with this institution. For instance, if a pharmaceutical company wants to export to Europe or to the United States any pharmaceutical product, the company has to fulfill certain ISO norms in the production process. And what we do is helping the Association of Pharmaceutical Companies to reach these ISO norms, which is a precondition to make business in Europe or in the United States. I have recently visited one of these pharmaceutical companies here halfway to Doolittle, and this factory could be everywhere in the world. It's highest hygienical standards, and when you enter the factory, you do not know where you are. It's international standards which are fulfilled there. So we want, with this project, to open new roads for Nepal to export. Pashmina and carpets is nice, but that is the past. The future lies somewhere else. And we think, for instance, that pharmaceutical products have a future for export. And coming now to more business-oriented issues, I also think that IT services have a future in Nepal. We have a German business. I opened their office, which is opposite of the EU embassy, a couple of months ago. Coac is the name. And I have never heard of them. They have 15 employees here in Nepal. And I asked them, what are you doing? And they said, we are programming artificial intelligence. And I asked, who are your customers? And they said, chemical industry and all over Europe. Nowadays we have regulations in Europe that when you come up with a new chemical substance, you have to have a booklet explaining about the hazards, about if there is a fire, how does this substance react, and so on. Now imagine you bring two chemical substances together. That all might change. The hazard situation, the fire situation, how you have to control it. And nowadays there is a chemical engineer sitting there and writing the booklet for this combined two chemicals. This in future will be done by an artificial intelligence which is programmed by Nepalis here in Kathmandu. Just imagine that. What a progress. And so there is a huge demand for these services. Unfortunately, there is no huge supply of manpower here. And that is why I always argue that the government has to support the education institutions who train these young people, and they should sit together on a round table, the investors, the universities, and the government, to come up with a plan. Let's say, for instance, we want to quadruple the outcome of our education system in IT within 5 years. What has to be done? What do the universities need for that? Who is responsible at the government side? Where are the budget, the allocations for that? And then they have to come together every 2 or 3 months and to see what milestones were reached and how they have to proceed further on. IT is a big chance for Nepal in future. Coming to human resources. We run a project here in Nepal I'm extremely proud of, because so far there is no government money in this project. It's all driven by private investors. It's called Nepal Secretariat for Skills and Training. It has started pre-COVID, and then in COVID we had to stop it. And therefore we are practically 3 years back. Last year we have sent the first batch of about 20 young Nepali students to Germany to get training in what we in Germany call duale Berufsausbildung, dual vocational training. That is what about 50% of our youngsters do. Lots of people think that the Germans all go to university because we are a high-tech country. That's not true. 50% of our youngsters go to university, the other 50% go to dual vocational training. And that means they have a working contract with a factory or a private enterprise. They get paid, and they have a 3-year training period. During this 3-year training period, they are every week, there are 3 days in the factory and 2 days in a state-controlled school with a curriculum which is stipulated from the industry. So they learn in school what the industry needs, what they have to practice in their job. This is an extremely effective way of educating young people exactly to what the market needs. And we have now the first 20 Nepalis doing this training in Germany after 1 year of language course preparation here in Kathmandu. They come to Germany and most of them live in families to further learn German, and they follow this dual vocational training. They are all paid. They are equally treated like the German youngsters as well, and they have the choice. They can learn whatever they want. If somebody wants to go in health professions, he can do that. If somebody wants to be in mechanical engineering, that's fine, or in construction. So they have the choice. They can say what they want to do. At the moment, we have about 120 young people here in Kathmandu in German language course training, and about 60 to 80 of them will pass the language test and then can start their training in Germany. We want to reach an annual number of 500. So can you imagine you have 500 youngsters from Nepal being trained according to German standards and professions you need here in Nepal, from electricians to mechanical engineering and carpenters and whatever you need. And when I was in Vadodara on the construction side of this hospital, there were 120 people working there. And I asked, where are they from? And I was told they are all from India. There is no trained workforce in Vadodara area. And the men leave for cheap working possibilities outside of the country. When we provide Nepal with about 500 young people who are trained and skilled, this will be a game changer. In addition, that is my last point, we continue with providing university studies for Nepalis, and we have at the moment 2,300 young Nepalis in German universities. And they all have scholarships, so they don't have to pay. You know, when the youngsters go to the United States or to Australia or the UK, they have to pay university fees. And we don't ask university fees from these young people. So it's for them it's free. They have to pay only for what they need for their living costs and for the housing. But the universities are free of charge. And in addition, our master programs are taught in English language. So they don't have to learn German. And that makes Germany very attractive. If you come with a bachelor degree from Kathmandu University or whatever, you can immediately start in a master course in Germany and English language without paying a cent to the university. And I always mention that because it's very often people don't believe it and can't believe that it's still for free for everybody in Germany to study at the university. So spread that word around in your families. If you have some youngsters at home who think about studying abroad, we would welcome them in Germany, and we are quite good, especially in engineering professions, natural science and so on. So that is it from my side, and now I hope to get some recommendations from your side of how to go on in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your address. Now, As it's time for queries and answers, I'm going to hand over the floor to President Mr. Hemanta Khalil to lead the interaction.
Yes, okay, thank you. May I request friends from floor to express their views? Okay, but Dr. Mohan Prasad Loy, former Vice President, former President.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for the interesting discourse on the highlighting Nepal government cooperation. About 2 weeks ago, we had the leader of the EU delegation. She also addressed the council. Now, the reason why I am going to ask you is how, because Germany is also a part of EU. So how is Germany collaborating with the EU to really to further expand your cooperation programs in Germany in Nepal?
Executive Member of NCWF, Uma Didar.
Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation. So my query is a little bit different one. I am really impressed on how Germany has the returning export programs which support professional reintegration of Nepalese graduates and experienced professionals who return from Germany to Nepal. This program motivates our students to return back to Nepal, their country. However, I heard somewhere that you have cancelled this program. Is it so? It's my question.
Next, Dr. Krishna Belvase.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Your Excellency, for really educating us for government cooperation. Very inspiring to hear what you are saying. Very progressive, futuristic. If I may say, one of the major issues in Nepal, like you also know, that is rural-urban migration and urban to foreign migration. I think what Nepal needs is to create an environment where industries, agriculture, commercial agriculture, semi-commercial cash cropping can thrive in rural areas, semi-urban areas too. So that people can stay there. Even what we talked about electricity, the way those people are moving, we need to be creating and making electricity possible, use the household. We won't have many people living in the rural areas. Is there any vision for German cooperation together with the partners to create opportunities in the rural area in Nepal?
Thank you. Former Ambassador Hirinel Alcester.
So my query to Your Excellency is that there is narrative in Nepal when I visit India. Before that, they project that electricity is going to west. So we need export argument. But as you first highlighted that for kitchens, for cooking, you are helping it. So my query is that out of electricity and one of the components in fertilizer factory, there is another factor because we export fertilizer and the every year problem. So we need fertilizer factory in the past. So what are other areas from their experience to consume electricity more inside the country? Only surplus should be exported, not at the cost of electricity. Thank you.
Thank you. Former AIG Ravi Raj Thapa, Armed Police. Please.
Yeah, good time, Your Excellency. So I'm very happy to present myself. I was in Germany for 1 year in 1987-88. My police training was done by Bundeskanzleramt and trained by Germany in narcotics. So we were happy to say, and my friends also. we had a Narcotic Drug Control Act 1976. It was drafted by German experts. So when I came back, we established a Narcotic Drug Control Unit here. That's our chief of staff. So now, because my area is the law enforcement and control, now we have seen organized crime. I was very much interested from that day because I got a lot of training there with working with German colleagues. Maybe that area, law enforcement plus proceeding, I was very happy with the way we are investigating here. So I know how we did it and I was helping there, learning from that. That area is another area I'd like to recommend because I was friend and I still going to bullet. My friends were there. Japanese, German like साढ़े भन्थ्यो अब नेपाली साढ़े जरो नगर भन्थ्यो बुले भने साढ़े अब नराम्रो भाषा हो तर still maybe that area law enforcement investigation area still we can work something with this because I made a lot of drug law enforcement friends from Delhi also because your office is there with the enforcement. Maybe if you can give a little bit of a idea that, and if I can get a chance, I can brief you about law and order situation in Nepal also, and how I see and compare that with the German.
Thank you. Dr. Rajendra Baj is Professor, former President, Nepal Council.
Thank you very much, Excellency. It was a very elaborate, more educational presentation on existing bilateral relations between Nepal and Germany, as well as you highlighted some of the potential areas for further cooperation, IT, health sector, accessibility, and all that. I just want to touch on something I think I missed. That is the climate change impact on sustainable development, meeting the sustainable development. And Nepal is highly affected by this because our biodiversity is one of the highest, and we are living in more or less a very, I would say, sufficient economy so far. So if you can highlight some of your potential cooperation on climate financing on this, that will be very useful, and how Nepal can proceed with meeting the sustainable development goals in the Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, these are really important questions. So, starting with the first, EU cooperation here in Nepal. Unfortunately, there is not much to cooperate because we are only three. The French do not have development cooperation projects. So it's only two left. It's Finland and Germany. Then, of course, the EU delegation itself. So Finland, Germany, and the EU delegation, we are sitting together regularly. We exchange information and we try to find out where we can support each other. So, for instance, Finland runs so-called wash hygiene projects in schools where we are running agricultural projects in Karnali province, so that the two come together. And also in the health field, we are cooperating. We have formed we call it Team Europe, where, for instance, we are investing in maternity health, and we get support from the European Union for these projects. So we can leverage the national efforts by means from the EU. We try to support each other, and we sit regularly together to cooperate. That functions very well because we are only such a small group here. The GIZ helped to bring Nepalis back to Nepal. I haven't heard that they stopped that. I think there is still a program giving start money for Nepalis who say now up 20 years in Germany we want to go back and invest in Nepal or set up a business there and so on. I think it's still there. I haven't heard that it was cancelled. And I had last year I had a meeting in the residence here with GIZ, organized by GIZ, with all these Nepalis who had returned. There was a group of about 80 young and middle-aged Nepalis who had studied in Germany, then worked in Germany, and then taken the offer by the GIZ to come back. I'm not aware that they cancelled that program. I think it's still running. Rural support, maybe I didn't focus on that in my talk, but we work in the rural areas. We do it in the field of energy, for instance, with off-grid solutions, where I once visited a village which is on the way to Ramechhap. It's on a hillside about maybe 200 meters above the river, and the women used to go down to the river to take water from there every day. And we have now installed an off-grid solar pump which pumps groundwater to a station which is above the village. So the village, with the water from there, every household has now a water tap, and there's even enough water to water a small field next to the house. So things like that we do. We have in Karnali a number of villages where we do greenhouse training. These villages were living from subsistence, from practically from what they had on their land. They didn't sell anything. And now with these greenhouses, which are very simple, 4 bamboo sticks and a little bit of plastic covering it, and then we have the drip irrigation, and they are producing all kinds of nice vegetables and sell it to the market and make good money with it. So we are in the field of agriculture, which I think is important. Nepal is an agricultural country, therefore supporting these people is important. Then energy consumption. That is, of course, I mean, in a way it will come naturally. If the grid is okay, if the grid supports the consumption of energy, then people will start cooking with electricity and using electric devices. First of all, I think, therefore, we have to enable the grid so that the people can use more devices at home. And organized crime, we are totally blank. And the law enforcement, we have no stakes in. Sorry to say that, but this is not part of our cooperation. And I could imagine that we cooperate more. We have now, for instance, again, for the first time since many years, a military officer in the German military training. When you want to become a general, you have to go through a general training course in Germany, which is about 1 year. And so the Nepali officer who has gone there, he gets now language training, and then he follows this general training course. And we have had that in the past, and then it was stopped during the Civil War. And now for the first time again we have a military officer there. And I hope that the government finds a solution concerning the Transitional Justice Amendment Bill, which I think would be a precondition to do more in the field of security. And then the last one, climate change. That is the problem of the future. And Nepal is heavily affected from climate change. And we know that the temperatures in the high Himalayas are rising much quicker than in other parts of the world. Glaciers are melting, permafrost areas are melting, you have landslides, you will have water shortage, you will get new diseases. I hear now that these bugs who transport dengue fever and malaria, these flights are now up to 2,200 meters. In the past, Kathmandu Valley was malaria-free, 1,500 meters. Now you find them at 2,200. The crops will change, the forest will change, the fauna will change. I think we are just at the beginning of understanding how dramatic these changes will be. Nobody has a solution for that yet, and we have to adjust. But we try to keep climate change in all our projects in our mind. Water, for instance, is one of the big problems. Now Kathmandu gets water from Langtang Glacier via a tunnel into the valley, and just imagine this Langtang Glacier will be gone. Maybe in 50 years, maybe in 100 years, but somewhere it will be gone. And then Kathmandu has a water problem then. So we have to consider that in all our efforts in the future.
Thank you, Salaj. Let me request some of the friends who want to express their queries again. Dr. Dwadikanath Dungal, former Secretary of the Ministry of Water Resources.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for providing the overview of the German-Nepal cooperation and also providing some prospects in the future. Having worked, and I'm happy to know that you are from Hyderabad. Before telling my story of Hyderabad University, South Asia Institute, let me just also remind you that German cooperation in Nepal are also remembered for two projects. One was in 70s, I'm talking about 70s. That was Gandaki Zone Agriculture Project. That was a famous project, and the urban development project. These are the classical projects which we have through German cooperation. And I used to be in the Ministry of Local Development, and we had urban development through local networks, then town development funds and all that. So that's all, just to add. 70s, I used to work with South Asia Institute, the then director, Professor Bruno Banal, who's no longer. I was his assistant. In that capacity, I used to visit South Asia Institute a couple of times. I have visited a couple of times, and I remember Professor Rieger is still alive, and some of my friends are still there, who are the graduates of Heidelberg University. And what I'm trying to guide, and you may like to provide some perspective. South Asia Institute, Heidelberg University has been working here. I'd like to, and I hope that's doing some good work. You may like to tell us something about the contribution of South Asia Institute here, South Asia Institute, Heidelberg University. That's one. The other was during my time at the Ministry of Water Resources in the 90s. I know German University was working in the upper areas of middle Mashangi. There was a bluff. I had visited that. And I don't know, I think Ishimod is working in the bluff area, which is a very, which needs to be looked into very carefully because of the climate change. Probably you may like to also say something about either you might be working on your own through energy cooperation or through the issue.
Prakash Raj, former Vice President, Nepal Council.
I have a question about federalism in Nepal as compared to federalism in Germany. now in Nepal, Nepal is also a federal country, such as Germany. Germany was a federal country, I think, before, even at the time of Hitler, it was a unitary state, but before that it was a federal country. Then we have Bulgarian Republic before unity, and then my particular question is now how do you see working of federalism in Nepal compared to federalism in Germany? Do you think it's working all right, or maybe it's too small a country to have federalism? The reason I asked is there was an article in one of the websites which I did some research on German Nepal relations, and that said that in Nepal also is a country having a lot of diversity, and it said that in Germany the same thing, but it's not the same thing. Like you only have one language, you only have German. Of course, the dialect. So you can make a comparison between Nepal and Germany as far as like you have Hochdeutsch in the northern part of Germany, but in the south it's part of Germany. You guys write it in German language, same like Hamburg, like Hanover, whatever you use in Hanover. So what I want to say is that it's not a country, Germany is not a country like in Nepal. There are many different ethnic groups. They have their own language. Maybe that was one of the reasons why Nepal became republic. So in your opinion, how relevant is this issue? I mean, federalism in Nepal compared to federalism in Germany?
Thank you. Next, Rajesh Vesta is a former executive director of IFAS and AIG also.
Good afternoon, very much ago. We are very meaningful way with regard to development cooperation that is being carried out by Germany, Federal Republic of Germany, and on behalf of your question, in your capacity of today, as Germany is considered as the safest country in the world. And before 24 February 2022, the Germany used to import natural gas from Russia more than half of its need. And now it has cut down to consider economy. And on the other hand, the global governance that is created in 1949 has been drastically changed. And the people also, the non-people also talk about the de-dollarization, and global security architecture is also considered as being changed. So how this Ukraine crisis has impacted the development cooperation, as because Germany is also supporting Ukraine with the military aid in considered amount. And also, though it is safe country in the world, but its security expenditure is not becoming high. So, how that impacted the development cooperation with respect to Nepal?
Yeah, I didn't get the last point. The refugees from Ukraine was the first point.
Not the refugees.
No, but I didn't understand you.
The last point. How the current situation of Ukraine-Russian war, how that has impacted the development cooperation in regard to Nepal?
Maybe from the German side. Next, Komal Powder, EU International Relations.
Good afternoon, Excellency, participant. There is a so good relationship with Germany and Nepal. I listen. We are really grateful for this cooperation with us. And I would like to ask this one question. You are going to get training there in Germany. Are they return Nepal or stay there? Or are they compelled to come back or stay there?
Trainers,
Students from Nepal, they go to take training in Germany, and are they compelled to back Nepal or stay there? Just that question I'd like to ask.
Okay, thank you. The next one is Dr. Kishandev Panta. He is an executive member of the Nepal Council.
Yeah, thank you, Excellency, for the very comprehensive presentation on the Nepal Government Cooperation. My question is related to the work just raised by Dr. Delvasi on the possibility of creating into our road into our Nepal. And you know about we have about 5 million youths. They have left the country already. And whatever remains, they are also in the process of leaving. I will be surprised in a couple of years and when all of our youths are in the country. So that the plan needs, I think, create some kind of reform to retain these people in the rural areas, especially in far west areas. In the past, I know that, as Dr. Rami was saying just now, that those in government, they provide a lot of assistance in the agricultural development. I remember that Highland Research Agricultural Farm, very close to Pokhara. I think that is possible a lot in the development of agriculture in the area and creating agriculture-related there is some possibility of creating, this, assisting in the area of agro industries in the southern India.
Thank you. Dr. Kamal Krishna Shrestha, he is a scientist, nuclear scientist, or
Your Excellency, I have had the privilege of going to Germany to do research work on the subject with the Commission. That was more than 4 years ago. And I worked in Nuclear Research Center Council in 2015. So after finishing my research work, I have been privileged to come back, do some other research work in Nepal, by getting all the equipment I was using in Germany, stacked up and sent to Kathmandu. I did research work and had a very good beginning of a scientist in a developing country. It was more than 4 years ago. And just now I would like to draw the attention of Your Excellency that in the last 40 years, or less than that, we have by now, the government of Nepal has come up with the national nuclear policy. And accordingly, we have become a member of IAEA, the National Atomic Energy Agency. And IAEA is supporting about 200 scientists in Nepal, scientists and technologists, using nuclear techniques. So I would like to draw your attention that if there is a new area of cooperation we would like to do in Nepal, application of nuclear sciences. Thank you.
yes, thank you. Neer Bahadur Kaki, yes, please. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for coming. With regard to the Nepal-German cooperation, the CNC has highlighted a lot of things which is very clear. Now, during CNC, I have just one recommendation, which is both for the government of Nepal and Germany, and another is just a question. My recommendation must be that since Germany is an industrialized country, and I have been speaking during those days, the aircraft 747 was landed by bringing 10% of Germany every victim. So our civil aviation is with our highest technology. I think that in Nepal, we have lot of problem of soil erosion, especially in the hilly areas. If German, on the request of the government of Nepal, if German would assist in building or developing roadway system, that will decrease the soil erosion in Nepal. I don't know if that are official from the Ministry of Finance or not. Roadway system.
Walkway, bike.
That's one my suggestion. This is, as I said, the suggestion for both for Europe, Nepal and for Germany. And another question is that previously there was cooperation of German and Nepal industrial development. But there are none of them Nepal Industrial Development Corporation, the NIDC, which is industrial India and bank. There is cooperation. Now, when we are getting negative path towards industrialization, if government could invest in our industrialized process, that is starting to and industrialization of agriculture as a contribution to functions right now before I spoke. So the government cooperation in Nepal's industrial development in the context of deteriorating economy of Nepal, that would be an instrumental, that would play an instrumental in my view. This was
Okay, thank you. I think the last one is Badrdas Sesha. I don't think he has gone out. So may I request the Assistant Ambassador to have a short reaction on this issue.
Yeah, thank you very much. So nice to share your memory from Professor Knall. I was studying with Professor Rotermund in these days, but I know Knall as well. I'm very proud of the South Asia Institute. Last year we celebrated 35 years of South Asia Institute here in Kathmandu. You know they have an office here in Kathmandu. And since 35 years, and here not far from here in Lalitpur. And since 35 years there are permanent research fellows from German universities, not only Heidelberg, but also last time I was there was guys from Hamburg and so on. And they are working here in Nepal in various fields. One I would like to mention is the digitalization of old documents. So you have all these old manuscripts, and they go through these manuscripts and try to figure out which are important and should be digitalized. And we have now already tens of thousands of pages digitalized. And it's online, it's accessible. When you Google South Asia Institute Heidelberg in Kathmandu, you will find this project. And this is extremely important for future research. To have these documents, and many of these documents are also translated. So translated, digitalized means accessible for everybody. And that is important for future research. And they are working also in a project which you can already see in the Patan Museum. It's called Heritage Documentation Project. It's online, and in one case we have sponsored the computer terminal. It's in the courtyard of the Patan Museum. We aim finally to have an application for a mobile phone. When a tourist comes to Kathmandu and sees an old temple, he can open that app and gets the information. When is it built? What is the architecture? Which religious festivals are connected to that temple? Which goddesses are connected to that temple? And then he gets additional hints to go on in the same area. You will find also these other monuments. So we have so-called heritage walks. And in the Patan Museum you can see how it shall work in future. These specialists from South Asia Institute are now programming this app to make it accessible for people who come to Kathmandu in future. Sometimes I see tourists standing on Patan Square and they look around, open eyes, open mouth, but they don't know what is it there, what temple it is, what god is, when was it built, and in which century, and so on. And to bring all this information together, that is what they are working on. And by the way, they also have translated this famous, what is it called, Molucci Ein, which is thick like that, translated into English with comments also from the South Asia Institute. Federalism, that is, federalism is always a problem. It never functions properly. And we see that in Germany. Now they are fighting, the federal states are fighting with the central government who pays for the refugees. And there is permanent fighting going on. The federal governments, they want more money and more responsibility, and the central government is trying to keep things under their hands. But it's the best way of governing. In a country like Germany with so many different areas, it's the best form of governing. And I congratulate Nepal that you have a federal system here. Whenever I go to the provinces, I talk to people, journalists, businessmen, how is it working? And I only get positive feedback. There is more money coming down, and the people feel more emancipated. It's not decided everything in Kathmandu anymore. And they have more direct access to decision makers. There is much more moving on. The fact that you have now a new generation of politicians coming up, that is because they were trained in their federal parliament, in the federal administration. Therefore, I think it's, despite all the problems, it's the best form of government for a country like Nepal and also for a country like Germany. Then the Ukraine war so far has not impacted our development cooperation. The development budget is not influenced by this war. The support for the Ukraine we pay from different sources, and the extra funds for our military, this 100 million special fund for the military, this will be covered by long-term debts. So the development cooperation has not suffered yet, but I cannot say for the future how it will work out. What we see already is there are less EAAD scholarships, which doesn't affect Nepal, but there are less, and we see less of the senior expert service people coming. This is already affecting Nepal. We had in the past, we had about 35 to 40 senior experts coming every year to Nepal, staying here for 3-4 weeks, going back. And this will be this year only half the number. That is a small effect we already see. In future, it will depend on how long this war is going on and how the construction of the Ukraine has to be financed. So it's difficult to predict, but so far I think we will try our utmost to avoid that this war will have any consequences for our development cooperation. So staying in Germany or coming back, it's an individual decision. But what we see is they stay in Germany for a certain period of time, make some money, gain some experience, and then at the age of 40, they think our children should get in touch with our culture in Nepal, and we have to go back, or they think that, oh, my parents are now in an age that I have to care, and then they come back. There are not too many staying in Germany, considering the number of Nepalis in Germany, and considering those who go for studies to Germany. I would say it's maybe 20% who stay and 80% who go back, sooner or later. And even those who stay are helpful to our bilateral relations. I know a number of Nepalis in Germany who are heavily involved in social work, NGO business, creating awareness for Nepal in Germany. They all have families in Nepal. They all send back support for their families, and therefore, for me, it's not A or B. They contribute to our bilateral relations when they stay, and they contribute when they come back. Of course, we want to see the majority of those people coming back to Nepal because their skills and their knowledge can be helpful to the development of the country. But how to prevent people from, young people in rural areas from going abroad? I think education and training is crucial in that field. When they have learned a profession in construction, electrician, or whatever, they can make money at home. They don't have to go. And even when they go abroad, they can make more money when they have skill. I have seen that in Bangladesh. They have a similar problem. A lot of people from Bangladesh are also going to the Middle East, and usually they were in a very bad position because they are unskilled. And we had 4 weeks welding course, which was financed by the German government. And these 4 weeks catapulted these people in a totally different scale level. They were not untrained, stupid manpower from Bangladesh. They were some people who came with the knowledge, with the skill, and were respected. And therefore, I think education training is important. You probably cannot prevent people from going abroad, but even when they go abroad, they will be better off when they have proper education. Job creation in rural areas it's difficult. We try that with what I mentioned before, these greenhouses and education in pest prevention, biofertilizers and all that. It can help. There is more income in these villages where we do the projects, but it will take some time till it reaches each and every village. The nuclear science, you might have heard that they have just switched down the last 3 nuclear power stations in Germany. So my government is not in favor of nuclear science, and we think it's dangerous, we think it's too expensive, and we are not in that area anymore. We do research still in that field, and in Karlsruhe where you have been studying, and it's a kind of scientific research, but we do not use nuclear energy for our energy mix in Germany. By the way, this is not necessarily stipulated by the government. There would be nobody anymore investing in nuclear energy. Therefore, the whole debate which we have in Germany from time to time, totally unnecessary, because if you compare 1 kilowatt hour of electricity made by wind or solar and made by nuclear power, then nuclear power is 5-6 times more expensive. And you have the problem with the waste going on for hundreds of thousands of years. Heinrich Lübke was in Nepal. That was in 1967. And the runway had to be extended from 111 airport for that. And I know that because in the residence garden I have a tree which was planted by Heinrich Lübke, and there is a small plaque reminding of that visit. It was a very famous visit because it was also in then East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh. And then he went on to Kabul in Afghanistan. And very famous visit. Cable cars, we are not in this technology. This technology which is very much Austrian controlled. There, as far as I know, there are worldwide 2 private cable car manufacturers. The one is the Austrian one who did the Chandragiri cable car. And the other one is, originally it was French. I do not know it was sold. I think it's now Italian. They are the competitors. These are the 2 only firms which are in large-scale cable car production. And as far as I hear, they are both active here in Nepal. If it could be a traffic solution, I don't know, but at least it's a tourist point. So Germany to invest in Nepal economy, I don't see that. I mean, the investment is always driven by private ownership, and we do not invest, or we can't stipulate private investment in Nepal. What we can do is, with our development cooperation, we can try to change the framework. As I explained with the pharmaceutical industry, we help them to reach the ISO norms so that investment can make sense in that field. But we cannot say any private investor go to Nepal, do this and do that. And, therefore, we have to set the framework, and also the Nepali government has to make it a little bit more attractive. They want, on the one side, they want private investment, and then when private investment comes, they come up with all kinds of difficulties to exchange money and to bring gains back out of the country. Nowadays, last year, for instance, it was impossible to repair Mercedes-Benz here because the spare parts were not allowed to come in. So the government should be a little bit more creative and facilitating and making it more easy for the businessmen. We recently had this European Business Forum, a 2-day conference, where we also had invited European investment in India to come over to Nepal, because we think that the big investors from Europe, they will not come to Nepal, but they will come to India. Maybe from India they will come to Nepal. Therefore, that was our idea, is bring those who are in Mumbai and Calcutta, bring them, or Bangalore, bring them to Nepal to have a look into the state of affairs here, and maybe they find it interesting here. That is things what we do and what we organize, and but we need in the end the support from the government to make it a little bit easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for tackling the concern of our friends so efficiently and comprehensive way. Now I will hand over this mic to Parita for giving the program.
Okay, thank you all for active participation and lively interactions. Now I request President Mr. Hemanta Khare to present a token of appreciation to the guest speaker.
So I thank you all for your interest and
As we have already almost come to the end of the program, now I request Secretary General of NCAA, Mr. Ramesh Singh, to deliver vote of thanks. Ramesh Singh.
Thank you, Secretary. Mr. Chairman, Chief Guest, Dr. Thomas Prince, Ambassador of Federal Republic of Germany, respected guests, council members, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to present before this August gathering a vote of thanks in today's program. As a national think tank organization of Nepal, Nepal Council of World Affairs provides a platform for discussions on various national and international issues, including the foreign policy matters, and provides necessary input to the government of Nepal. We are having this program to have a better understanding and appreciation of various dimensions of development cooperations between Nepal and Germany. I'm sure we have been richly benefited by today's excellent presentation made by His Excellency Ambassador Thomas Prince on the topic. We are very much grateful to Ambassador Prince for really accepting our invitation to be the chief guest and present Nepal-German cooperation and future prospects. Similarly, we are very much grateful to our respected council members and guests for being present on today's occasion. And finally, we would like to thank all our participants for making a very interesting interactions during the question and answer sessions. Thank you all.
Thank you for your vote of thanks. Now, with the permission of President, I declare the closing of the program, and I request all the past presidents and committee members, executive committee members, for a joint group photo session, and request all to join for refreshment outside the hall.